Awesome. Welcome, everybody, joining us today. We are back. Westfox is back. Awesome. The brothers are back. There's lots of things to talk about. Even though the world is burning and the media world is burning and there's, very little things to be positive about. There's one in here that
Are we allowed to use the term fake news? Are we allowed to use that term?
There is fake news out there. And there's also real news. And whence they are, I can't say it every second, but there's things. So, all right. But on real news, that is undeniably real news. Well, I will caveat that.
You spelled Synder wrong. Did you not even Google his name?
Oh, I did spell his name wrong. Well, that's how,
that's
how little I
you're
care.
Such a bum.
That's how little I care.
You have it pulled up right there. Yeah, and you still couldn't even fix it.
I didn't even look. I just wrote Synder. I'll fix it.
I'll fix exactly
the post right now.
Does this show how much you care?
Actually, does show how little I care about this, to be honest.
You got it all wrong. All wrong.
And I honestly, you talk about fake news here, Philip. The first thing I read this headline, I was like, X for doubt is, I believe, the saying. With this $20 million to $30 million price tag they're talking about in the article, considering the fact that we know that some of these movies have had reshoots, I don't know how this is going to be an entirely new movie with only a $20 to $30 million price tag, knowing how much money is spent on movies when they reshoot stuff or do a lot of refixing in post. A lot of movies, hit that $100 million price tag really quickly. Yeah. So I'm going, how are we keeping this thing cheap?
How much did they reshoot when Snyder had left? Would be the question. If you say had 90% of the movie,
I thought it was around half.
Well, that's my point. So if let's say he had 90% of his movie done,
I don't think he had,
and they just had to fix some things and edit and post and stuff like that. How else could they? It's not a
new movie, though. That's what I'm saying. They reshot a decent amount of stuff. So,
what's my point? If they reshot 50%, it's basically a new movie. If Zack Snyder did 90, and then they came back and rewrote 50.
But the ending's the same, though.
Well, the good guys win, sure.
But, what? Okay. Justice League is not a memorable movie. I guess I should start with the beginning. I never have understood this pull for... Really? You never saw it? Well. Do you see it, Christopher?
I actually didn't.
Oh, my God. Okay, well, then...
It's because the movies are terrible.
It was a terrible movie, and I thought you guys had seen it. So
I'm sorry. I saw the trailer where, here's the thing. I knew exactly where the movie was going, and it was just... To me, it was just like, I'll go watch the cartoon versions or something else that's going to have a way better storyline, especially knowing that, because isn't this the one where, Superman and Batman are fighting and he says Martha and he's like, why would you say that name?
No, that's Batman versus Superman.
That's Batman versus Superman.
No, that's Batman versus Superman. You're even way offer.
Yeah, I didn't realize.
The only reason...
Here's the thing. I love DC, and I love most of DC's cartoons far more than I usually enjoy Marvel stuff. But their live-action movies, it's just been like, DC, keep with your comics and your cartoon universe.
Well, in this
movie,
you
guys have way better story writing in those than every single live-action movie you've done has been crap.
Well, and this movie's a derail.
But all the Green Lantern cartoon ones were amazing. First Flight of cartoon ones that I think came out 2 years before the Ryan Reynolds live-action was an amazing movie.
Hey, will you move your hair out of your head? It's all coming out pixelated on my end, and it's really just... Thank you. That's really distracting.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I apologize.
So, for someone...
Will you move it again?
Here's the thing with this one. Is, for me, there's no excitement for a recut of the movie. Because I don't... I'll end up seeing it. We can review it. You guys can watch both, and you guys can do it. See them. I'll suffer... You have to suffer through, 8 hours of movies. Because they're talking about this thing being a 5-hour edit or something ridiculous. Which the only thing...
Or 16-part mini-series or something crazy. And you're like,
one reason they can make it better is because they're allowing the characters to actually breathe and have a second for character interaction that doesn't exist in the movie.
Right. It's almost not fair, to do that.
The movie isn't even... the movie's not even well filmed. That's the thing about this movie. I remember watching in theaters and going, wow, there's scenes where the actors don't feel like they're in the same scene, and I'm sure they weren't because they was probably green screen together. Like the physicality of the scenes, I feel like everything was a green screen set. So I guess they can go back and post and just move everybody around and cut it. Well, we don't want that character in the scene. Delete them, post and stuff. I don't know. To me, this is a very uninteresting thing. I know there's a percentage of people out there who freaking are super excited for it, and like I said,
I didn't know it was going to be 5 hours. Or they're talking.
Well, that's what they're saying. It could be. They're still working on it. So I don't know.
We have no idea what's going to look like. They're going to say so much stuff for this in the next year.
Well, this is also this is marketing for HBO Max. Just so you know, this is you know so.
Okay.
You got to read the end of this. This is going to HBO Max. This isn't coming out for theaters. This is going to HBO Max. So this is their ploy to tease people to join that service, like versus Disney Plus, right? Or whatever other subscription service. This is their way to get. Okay, we can get 10 million people just to buy it for a month to see the movie. Well, we probably paid, we paid most of the bill for this, right?
Right.
I mean, granted, I think the streaming model is very odd when it comes to, in the end, where the money's going to come from. When we talked before, where Disney Plus movies are costing $130 million a season, and you're like, how many people do you have to have for how long to pay for all that content plus every second of new content? Like, I don't know where the money comes from. So I don't, again, I know there's this movement for this for a long time. It comes out in a year now, approximately. And you guys haven't seen it. So you guys haven't,
well, here's one thing I'm going to say about it, I guess, just in general. Yes, I haven't seen it, but to hear a 5-hour cut to me is a little bit hilarious. I'll just put it as simply that, because it's like, I mean, that would be, okay, movies that were already long and got longer and needed to be. We have the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Each one is about 2.5 hours. The unextended versions.
Actually, I think they're closer to 3.
They might. Some of them might be closer.
No, to 3. The first one's only like 2 hours and 10 minutes, without the extended portion.
Well, yeah, but like I said, then you get to the extended ones, and I think Fellowship of the Ring is about 3 hours and 12 minutes. Helm's Deep is about 3 hours and 35 minutes, and I think like Return of the King is like 4 hours and change.
No, it's less than 4 hours.
It's like 3.
It's less.
Well, let's not argue over that. But what's your main point?
My point is saying
get to your point.
So a great show like that that added on maybe an hour, let's say, for filming, and then you go back and watch and go, you know what, that all that stuff added in there was, helpful. But that'd be like coming back now and saying, oh well, actually now we're gonna come out with like the 7-hour extended version of Lord of the Rings. And I guess I'm kind of saying like in comparison of like a time of like, the length of the run for what the show was originally. So it's like, just come back and say, this is going to be a 5-hour long thing. It's like, I'm sorry, this thing wasn't an epic before. Again, I haven't seen it, but
I know, which makes it very hard.
Level of, I know.
Well,
but it's like,
the problem,
again,
here's the problem. The story is not a good story.
Where are you going to pull out 2 extra hours or 3 extra hours of material?
Here's the problem. The story isn't good. Like it's not a good bone story in the sense of what they're working with to start with. The characters aren't great in it because they're not developed. The story with what's his face merging mother boxes to destroy the planet is garbage. They took something simple. They took something simple, which is the mother boxes, and made them a terraforming plot device. Because you combine 3 mother boxes.
Doesn't know.
In the movie, Steppenwolf.
Shep doesn't know what you're talking about.
Yes, I do.
No, because they're not what mother boxes are in the cartoons. So in this one,
like typical
they're not just a transporter device.
Pretty much they are.
This one, they're like,
the boom tubes. That's the boom tube part of that function for the mother box. The mother box.
Let me hold on. Let me finish so you can actually hear what the summary of the story is. So essentially, there was an ancient war, and the mother box was split into 3 pieces. Well, now Steppenwolf has returned, and he's trying to collect all 3 pieces to destroy the planet, and that's the story. And essentially, he gets all 3 pieces.
Oh, so they're finding the Allspark.
Yeah.
Yes.
That kind of stuff. So it's generic. It's boring. It's another silly, MacGuffin plot device. Oh, it's going to destroy the planet. They literally have a scene where they're like have the Green Lanterns fighting back in like the 2000 BC or 3000 BC or 5000 BC, something like that. mythological level, Greek god type stuff.
I mean, the whole apocalypse and dark side thing has always been about him looking for like the anti-life equation, like very high-end stuff. Why would you have to then
just in the cartoon
to his well, yeah, but I'm just saying it's like his is usually a far bigger plan of him taking over and what he was doing.
Right. Well, my point is you don't
is finding.
My point is you don't.
Like you said, a MacGuffin.
Right. My point is, and we'll move on because when you guys haven't seen this, it makes it much harder to have a conversation on it.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you hadn't seen it.
No, it doesn't. It's not. I think we're discussing the wrong part of what this is going to end up opening the massive can of worms for.
What do you think that is then?
Because while I agree, I couldn't care less about these movies. The only good movie they've made was Man of Steel.
Really?
And even it faltered in places. I actually liked the movie. Hot take. I actually thought the movie was pretty good. I know people complain that it was dark. That doesn't bother me. Now, don't get me wrong. I know there's stupid things like his father committing suicide. Yes. The whole Jesus imagery. Yes. All that stuff is stupid. But where most people got their pennies in a bunch was the fact that he had the audacity to kill a mass murderer Zod. And that what it would really look like is when two superhumans are fighting is mass devastation. That's just reality.
Yeah. No, I had no problem with that.
That was so dark with that. Can't believe it's like.
Well, go down to your
go to
your point about
what right before he's going to kill two kids.
What's the dark side here?
But the problem is with this, there have been so many different movies that supposedly have different cuts or different renditions or different setups and different things. My concern is that if this movie rendition of Zack Snyder's ends up taking off and a lot of people see it and support it and it ends up making a lot of money for these people, they're going to start... I mean, it's going to be like downloadable content for movies now is what it's basically going to turn into. Mm-hmm. It'll be, oh man, well, so-and-so was working on this, but now remember Solo when it had 3 different directors? Well, now we'll release all these 3 different cuts because you people are so silly that you'll give up your money to watch 3 different barely variations or not a New Hope, but Rogue One when they had 2 different directors before they ended up torching those people.
Yeah.
Or the Lucas cut of Rise of Skywalker and all this crap. I can see them, if it becomes a successful thing, attempting to capitalize on it with basically making downloadable content, literally, for movies.
I think there's that has a potential, and an example of that is Cats, where they had the edit and
the digital fix.
The digital fixes during the first couple days of the
That
run.
was because of their crappy fur, which, first off, if you're going to do
Cats,
I guess you should have done costumes. But
I guess they had a butthole version, too, where the cat's butts were showing.
Oh, yeah, I did that. Yeah.
They had
you know, to Hound's point, actually, there's even more so, because I agree with you, Southhound, that, like you're saying, it's almost going to be DLC, but they've also, I don't even think, I mean, it's going to be worse than even, like, the different directors version, because remember what Endgame did, where they came back out and said, come back to theaters again because we added 5 minutes, and it was like the crappy
unfinished
footage, extra part of Hulk
footage.
And they said, come back to the movie and do it again.
That was for a good cause. It was to kick Avatar off the #1 movie list. And in fairness, that movie does not belong on the top number box office.
But again,
in fairness, it was for a good cause.
No, it's not a good cause, because again, I think it's creating that thing that people will go, there's an extra 5 minutes, well, I can keep, or like you said, there's going to be the newer, there's a little bit different version, or I mean, at this point, then if this goes through, then I'm waiting for Marvel to come, or Disney will come back and then try to do probably the other guy's version of Last Jedi or Return of whatever the last one. Rise of Skywalker.
Okay. Here's a question, Shepard.
Go ahead, Philip.
Did you see all the Marvel movies?
Who are you asking?
I saw every single one other than Captain Marvel.
Yeah. So I mean, here's the thing. Those movies became boring after like movie 3. So I mean, the thought of that, well, people were just gullible and silly to come into the theaters and watch this. Yeah, well, you've watched 90% of subpar movies just to watch the final end.
Okay, so here's
where
the
one
problem,
was good
Philip.
and the other
Here's
one
the problem,
sucked.
Philip. So you have to distinguish those people out there who are stans, essentially, and they essentially start building their identity tied to these franchises. And that's where, when you critique them, as we are, like me saying that I think that the DC movies are terrible, or the Marvel movies have a lot of flaws in some of the places, people get offended because they personally tie their stuff to it.
Just as bad.
everyone has elements they do that to themselves, but the Marvel and DC franchise, I think, are the modern equivalent of those. But that rolls into nicely, though, because I do agree with you, the changing, but it actually goes nicely into our next topic, which is physical media is important. And the reason that's important is because not only are they changing current movies, such as like we're talking about where they are editing, movies in theaters or editing stuff that is going to come out, but now they are going back and censoring for people who get offended by everything, things in past movies. So recently, just a couple days ago, Back to the Future 2 had a scene edited and
I can't believe they did this to
on
this.
Netflix.
Are you kidding me?
Since then, they have switched it back. But the point is that, and
they're willing to do it.
And they edited, because Marty pulls out a softcore adult magazine thing, and like there's a half. I don't think there's even nudity in, to be honest. But the point is, it was a movie that exists in the past, and they're going through it. The other movie and so just so people, other companies have done it. Disney did the same thing on the butt shot for her and Splash running into the water, and they added this like hairy skirt, pretty much mask.
It's like she's got like Uncle It from the Addams Family like hanging off her butt.
Seriously.
And the reality is, we don't know how many movies they've done this to, because it's hard to always know how fresh it is, right? Because there's always movies like when you
hard to remember.
Well, and think of this, like how many times have you watched movies on like made for TV, not made for, but they're edited for TV, so they're like, you're like, wasn't there a scene that happened? Like I remember watching movies because our parents recorded them on VHS when we were kids, a bunch of times on VHS, and then you watch the uncut version later,
and you're like, whoa!
You're like, where did this scene come from? That was a good scene. I don't know where that wasn't in the. Well, I never saw that.
I know one that I always noticed was Princess Bride. If I saw it on television, then I was always like, wait a minute, they cut out like some of the good scenes. I remember this part, and I'd have to then watch the actual DVD of Princess Bride to be like, that's. Why would you cut that out?
When they did it in the past for the TV, it was for speed.
For time.
It was for time.
It was a time thing.
It was for
time. Trying to squeeze it in commercials and stuff. But now you're having things where time is irrelevant. It's only geared towards censorship,
social conditioning.
Yeah, censorship and stuff, and taking things out that are considered offensive at the moment. And that's why the physical media is important.
And it's very oddly nitpicky.
It is very
because
nitpicky.
You're going to take that out of. I mean, think about it. This was Netflix, where this was on the platform. You have that small scene, which I've seen JCPenney ads that are worse than that now, with more scantily clad women than freaking Ooh La La in the 1950s. And yet they have The Witcher on there. I don't remember them censoring any of the boob and sex scenes.
Yes, and the argument that would be, the Batman's Back to the Future is a more family movie. But come on, man. And it's really not a great, like that's honestly Batman's like, Back to the Future is totally like a PG-13 movie. Like I think it's PG, but
oh my gosh, absolutely,
it's a PG-13 movie. If it's not a PG-13 movie, it is PG-13.
Especially since the second one probably is the more quote-unquote.
If it's not a PG-13, it is a PG-13. You mean
there's a lot of movies that are PG that were made in the 80s, but by today's standard, they'd be PG-13 is what I mean. So
that's true.
The point is, save your physical media, because you might have the only copy of something that might in the future be the edited version. And the scary thing too is right now most of these edits are done very clumsily, and probably by people who are not very good at doing these things.
Asleep and retarded.
But the reality is that the technology to recreate voices, recreate faces, reanimate stuff, let's say. In a couple years,
some of those deep fake things.
What scares me more is animating stuff. Or CGI,
in a couple years, they could actually replace a scene with a whole new scene in digital post. Essentially, and I could see that happening. I bet in 10 years we'll see scenes in a movie, and they're like, we redid this entire scene in post, CGI mixtures with, because look how good video game cinematic scenes look now, right? You're not telling me that was some post work and all the other stuff now, and that's. I mean, like I said, with the way this stuff's going.
Well, here's the lesson for that: buy multiple copies of what you like, so that in the future, when it's been ruined, they'll go for a premium, and you can keep one for yourself, and then you can sell the other ones for a lot of money to people who actually care about those things. That'd be I'd say investment tip number 1 from Southhound. Number 2, it's going to get significantly worse, because even on things like. Since I got Disney Plus for free since I was on Verizon, and I was looking through some of the old movies, and there's even caveats on them. They're like, you know, just to let you know, some of the scenes may be offensive to some people because of, I mean, literally they're putting on there
that was
paraphrase.
Disney's big thing.
This may be this could be uncomfortable for some audiences because it was made during a different time. And that's just going to be the next step to JK. We've just decided to completely remove it.
Well, yeah, 'cause I remember Disney doing that whole big push to trying to, like, I mean, literally they were pretty much saying we're going to put trigger warnings at the beginning of movies that we think might be culturally or
Warner Bros.
socially.
Warner Brothers will be doing that too. Just so you know, Warner Brothers will be doing that too on their platform. So,
oh yeah, which is super funny for the people that made literally the cartoon, your body and menstruation. Literally, there's a Disney made a cartoon back in the 60s about that, and it's very graphic, very detailed, very informative. But yeah, these are the same people who produced that, and yet they're worried that a bottom might be shown in a television show or a woman inside of nylons. It's like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
Let's not rewrite history here.
It's pretty funny. So, moving on to our next topic, and this will be a fast one. Batwoman, which is a very poorly rated show.
Good to see her go. It won't matter.
Thing.
I hope someone sues the studio, though.
There's a small proportion that go. The only thing I'll say that's hilarious is I remember when she got hired for the role, it was the crazy Twitter mobs that said she wasn't gay enough for the character. And now these same groups are like, how dare the right shut down her as an actress? And you're like, huh?
Right.
You guys were the ones who went after her for not being gay enough, even though she is, but because she also sleeps with men, that she's not the right type of gay, essentially, for the role. And
well, the thing now to look forward to here,
you get the right shade of gray.
Right, and so now she's left the show. There's been a lot of rumors. There's rumors spreading now that possibly, again, just maybe she was fired. She left the show. Who knows? Again, I was amazed.
Who cares?
I was amazed they got a second season. We'll see if that actually happens. Again, I think a lot of shows that they have announced second seasons for or first seasons for during this time will see things quietly fade out because, well, it costs a lot of money to make these shows. And when I think this show has like in the, less than a million people watching.
The hundreds of thousands of views.
Yeah, you have people who make YouTube videos who get more views than these TV shows do.
Seriously.
So, yeah, I mean, that's just a
I'd say the important takeaway is to see if they go out of their way to discriminate against heterosexuals will be the question. And they've made it very blatant statements that they're going to discriminate against anybody who isn't a homosexual. And I'm looking forward to that lawsuit. I'm hoping someone has the gonads
never do that lawsuit.
to say.
Yeah, they'll
never do that.
Why
lawsuit.
not?
They'll never do
you
it.
know what?
And you can't win that
what
one.
I see. You know what I see is actually the funnier part about this that I've been seeing.
They've made blatant statements. You could totally support it.
That's because trust me, that's not a lawsuit that there's a loophole somewhere in there, because all the time companies say we will only hire a woman for this job. It happens all the time and nothing ever happens of it.
It's a shame. It's an opportunity.
No,
well, it
there's
is
no
a shame.
opportunity.
Like I said, I think the bigger thing that I've seen that I kind of found odd, and I'm already seeing that people are kind of getting mad about. I don't know which side these people are on, but there was some talk about recasting then Batwoman as a woman of color, which people were like, so
that'd be a weird transformation in the middle of a show.
Well, and people's big pushback was, wait a minute, she has parents, she has siblings who's a white, they're like, the parents are straight up white. The daughter, then her like stepsister is white.
Logic
straight
doesn't
up white. And they're like, so you would have to recast everyone. But again, I don't, I just find it funny.
No.
It's like,
She
again,
just falls in a vat of chocolate.
Logic doesn't matter.
She just falls in a vat of chocolate. No big deal.
Logic doesn't matter. And again,
I mean, they didn't. They didn't care when
no
Marvel did. What was it? Fantastic Four.
Well, they made reasons. At least with that, they're going, okay, there's reasons, or they're adopting.
Well, yeah, because they made the dad black. Then,
again,
so like, well,
making shows, making giant changes of show in the middle of the show is silly. I think that Ruby Rose.
Don't you remember Fresh Prince of Bel-Air?
What?
Well, that was different. Changing.
Don't you remember Fresh Prince of Bel-Air when Philip's wife changed magically?
Well, it did happen more back then.
That's because the original actress did not care for most of the other actors, and she actually did not.
Yeah, she was
Smith a lot.
Interesting. Well, okay. So moving on, because this topic's boring. I'm sorry if you care about Batwoman.
Who cares?
that's all good, but man, no one watches it. Like statistically,
life.
no one watches it. All right.
First off,
now
even
to a
still
show that's
like
actually
the Batman
good.
Beyond looking suit. That's what makes me mad.
Oh man.
So to a show that's actually good, Avatar: The Last Airbender is one of the best TV shows, cartoons ever made.
Of all time.
And it came out again on Netflix, which surprised me there was such a giant like social media push for it, because as I said to my wife, I was like, I started watching that again last year, and so I had to look it up, and it was on Netflix for about a few months last year, and then they took it off, and now it's back on there. I don't know why they took it off and on. I'm assuming they're putting it back on since they haven't
Probably licensing issues.
They haven't. Well, no, I don't think it's that, because since they're haven't started casting for the live action show that they're supposed to do for it, I'm wondering if they're doing like kind of a push to see what the interest of it is, or trying to do some marketing research before they do it. But for some reason, the official Netflix Twitter account started going crazy on how important Korra is relevant to it, and started going after some people, and all these terrible news sites started picking up these things and saying things like, reignited a debate. I'm like, what debate? Was there a debate? What was there a debate back? Was there a debate back 8 years ago that I missed? Because I enjoyed Korra overall. I didn't mind the show. It wasn't as strong as Avatar.
It was terrible.
But you can't put it in the same level of show, because now the reason I always felt bad for the show is because the writers were never given full seasons allotments, which was too bad. Nickelodeon did really screw them. They never did any marketing for the show.
What?
No, they really did. So
you're blaming Nickelodeon for the trashy writing.
Oh, I'm not saying that
of Korra.
I don't think Korra's trashy, first of all. And I'm saying,
oh my gosh, Joe, rewatch it. It's so bad. You look at it with your 2020 lens. It's so bad.
Well, see, now I'm not going back to the 2020 lens, and what I'm saying is that
I watched it when it first came out. They destroy Aang's character. They completely Luke him. Is basically what they do. He's a failure. He's a terrible father. Nope, they did not.
I disagree
not even
with
close.
You. They made See, here's the thing. They didn't do what they did to Luke, because they also acknowledged that he had responsibilities that kind of ended up superseding some and causing issues there. To say, hey, I am the leader of this whole nation. I'm the Avatar. I have a family. And yeah, maybe I wasn't there at every second for my kids, I think is an okay story plot for the characters. Now, granted, would I have liked to have seen that more developed during the stories? Yes, because I thought they did very little inside of the cartoons, any of the seasons really allowing some older development of the original characters, and I'd hope to see more of it. But my point that I was starting with was saying that one of the big problems is when they were like, hey, want to do another Avatar show, they said, oh, we can only do one season. And so that's the reason all the Korra seasons are split up into single arcs versus a centralized arc which made the original 3 with the Last Airbender one so strong, because it was a nice, solid, tight arc versus the second one. And again, I think it's always harder, but I appreciate them moving forward, right? They did a lot of things that were good in it, right? This is what I'm gonna say. Yes. In the good in the show. Like, you can disagree with the writing, blah 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 blah, and say some stuff. They did a lot of good things inside of what they chose to do in the show. They moved forward in time. They moved forward in the timeline. That's a good thing. They allowed the world to evolve and become more advanced, and using all those elements, I thought was good. They did have,
but it was nonsensical.
How was it nonsensical?
And they didn't move forward in time. They actually go back and retcon everything from our avatar spirit, what that even meant, how it all started.
No, they
didn't. They completely retcon what originally happened for what was given in the original television show.
Interject?
Go ahead.
They move and when they move forward with all the different skills and power sets everyone has, it's irrelevant.
May I interject? Hound,
yes.
No.
You've had your time.
Overruled.
I mean, it's like, because like sometimes that's what's like. I know when we were gonna get to something that Philip doesn't like, then it's like it's kind of gets sometimes to me, because it's just like, I hate it. It's horrible. It's horrible. It's horrible. Okay, we get it. We know. Move on.
If I had time, I would go through it with you. But we're trying to rush through it. We'll have to bring it back up.
Shush, shush, shush,
shush,
shush, shh,
shush, Philip.
Okay. What I would say about it, I would agree that, because I didn't mind the first season of Korra. It was the later seasons that definitely were worse.
Agreed.
The first season didn't break that much because it didn't go into what you're talking about, Philip. It didn't go into the first Avatar, and I know what you're talking about, and I do partially agree with you. It was a little bit of like
The first
wait a
Avatar.
minute.
I will say the first Avatar story to me is actually one of the best parts of Korra. I see here. I'll strongly disagree. I think the origin story of the Avatar was one of the best stories in Korra itself. I think the tragedy of Korra is the fact that they allowed essentially the disintegration of almost 1,000 generations of avatars to be severed. That is the tragedy of Korra, is that she was the last one to ever have a tie to Aang and all the about. I mean, we look at the statues in the original show. There might have been 1,000 statues in the thing. Yeah, there was a lot of avatars prior to Korra, and the fact they never rebuilt that, and they never went down the line of. I had hoped when that show was coming out, they'd be doing some kind of way to mend that. Now, granted, they did do some things with the whole like spirit power level that they kind of overpowered her with the spirit power stuff. That's natural thing that happened in the stories.
Or the fact that she was a Mary Sue in the beginning because she'd already learned 3 different skill sets when she was a child at like 4.
Yeah, and I don't think they were going for the Mary Sue style of the new thing. I think that was geared towards how her aggressive personality versus like Aang's timid personality.
Well, and I think they didn't
strong.
Want,
it had strong whammon all over it.
I think they didn't want to have another. Then it be again that this Avatar was more about trying to learn her powers again because that was the whole point.
And it took her entire season to freaking learn how to do airbending on it too after she was an adult. So it took
and she's
time.
petulant and frustrating and annoying and unbelievable. I mean, and she gets away with murder all the time. Everyone kowtows to her when she's a terrible person. She's an absolute reprobate. And then the story writes it that even though she was just the worst type of human being, you would never want to spend time with her. They're like, oh, but she was right. We just made it in her world. It was right. Tenzin was just being a jerk.
I don't know what show you're watching. Like, honestly.
I think you need to rewatch it because I'm telling you, if you rewatch it, you're going to be like,
I don't know what show you're watching. Because
you're going to be like, whoa, my gosh, this is terrible.
Yeah, I think you're over.
I like quality.
No, you also hate almost everything.
Sorry, you don't have time.
Right? I mean, okay.
Yeah,
but the point is,
no, I love Avatar.
The worst.
I love Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's brilliant.
Now,
well, here's again.
Go
I would put it this way: Avatar, the original series, Avatar: The Last Airbender, got better with each season.
Yes.
Korra got worse with each season.
I'd agree with that. I think
started off worse.
There was 4 seasons.
Always a build up for Avatar.
There was 4 seasons. The first season was solid, had the terrorist plot. The second season had the annoying blood bending plot.
Nope, that was the same one.
No,
it's the same one.
No.
Yes, Joel. Yes.
Well,
the first terrorist plot is with the blood bending. And like I said, rewriting entire rules.
Not the blood bending part.
We magically decided that we don't need the moon anymore. We could just randomly have superpowers.
Well, that was like one-off people. We knew there was people with one-off abilities. Those were the guy with the freaking forehead in Avatar: The Last Airbender was a one-off.
Yeah, the third.
There's one-off characters things.
He was a random freak. It was they're saying it was passed on genetically to the next generation. He wasn't a random freak. His brother had the same powers and his father before him. Yeah. It wasn't a random freak accident.
Well, that is still a random genetic anomaly inside of the family.
No, it's poor writing is what it is.
I disagree with you. That's your happy.
And then everyone having this mastery of lightning. I mean, they basically made bending.
That is reality, Philip. See, that's where you're wrong. I will prove you wrong.
Not in 70 years. Not in 70 years.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yes. 100 years. And here's how I prove it wrong. Because look at athletes right now, current athletes nowadays. They do things that not a single person could do 70 years ago. If you look at the feats that was done 70 years ago in the Olympics, the highest levels, the things that one guy could do.
Yes, the best of the best, sir.
All of them can do it now. All the athletes can do it now. The things that guys couldn't do in the Olympics, the percentage of difference now is because once someone learns how to do something, right? The lightning bending in the originals, in the last Avatar, was a special skill because no one knew how to do it without killing yourself, pretty much. But what would happen was it became modernized and taught and understood and became a science and understood thing that they're like, oh, if you do these things and you kind of treat it like water bending and you create a technique for it, it's actually not as hard as it seems. Is it easy? No. Is the other brother able to do it? Is every firebender able to do lightning bending? No. But the ones that could, out of a civil, we're talking again, much larger scope of people too. We're not seeing every firebender in the show able to wield electricity. We're seeing that the percentage inside of a city the size of New York, so let's say 1 million people, there's a percentage inside of that can do it, and they're using the power plant thing. And that's my argument on why that I don't have any problem with the fact that people expand the thing. There's a difference. I compare that. We have the difference of that is the problem why The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker suck. Because The Rise of Skywalker introduced new powers that were game-changing to the universe. They took powers and said, "Oh, teleportation now exists in the Star Wars universe." Well, lightning already existed inside of the Avatar universe. Now we've acknowledged there's more people that exist in the universe that can use it due to the fact that it's been understood better.
Well, while I would agree with you, your Olympic argument actually is the excellent counter argument, because the reason that people can achieve that at those high levels and everything else is because they're all sponsored and supported, and we've mastered a scientific technology by which to allow these people to master something that they haven't been able to master. The layman doesn't go outside now and run a 4-minute mile. And yet, on the other hand, you have all the layman people who are bending able to shoot lightning half-assedly.
They're not all
laymen. I mean, they were literally
in
workshops.
If you're working in the plant, you're obviously not a layman.
Yes, they were.
No, they're not. If you're working
Mako, Mako went to this, Mako and all of his other crew who were there shooting lightning inside the things are like super great.
Mako was literally competing at athletic events.
In a small level with 3 other people, and they got beat all the time. It wasn't like they were great.
But so that's the beginning of all
they
that stuff.
debased all the levels of people's powers to make it look like it was modern. And again, it didn't make any sense because we only talked about 70 years.
Hey,
and all of a sudden, it was like 1940.
70 years.
Let me ask you a question, Philip. Before the printing press.
Yeah, do you know how long it took from...
Philip.
Nobody.
Before the printing press, who was reading?
There was people, but go ahead.
It was the rich, the powerful, right? Because it was only the high in influence who were able to actually attain it. Then came around the printing press, and reading started becoming more for the layman. I think that fits for the same exact in the same exact way. There was more people who obviously would have had the ability back
except
in the day
for
when,
it
you didn't have
doesn't.
that access. And then as thing is created, more people are able to train in it, look in it, and have more access to it. So you're going to see more.
It's 100% access.
Your layman people having access and learning it.
No,
again, I'm not arguing.
Yeah, and how many hundreds of years? Yeah, sorry, babe, I can see you because my camera is
and just so you know,
wide. I'm not using the other one, so
just not to argue.
Don't trump around naked back there.
But not to argue though, in the sense of, I still believe Avatar is far superior. Last Airbender is still far superior show. I probably will never rewatch Korra, just so you know. I'm not saying it's a great show.
Because it's not watchable. I'm
just saying it's not as bad as you're saying it out to be. But going back to the reason that we are bringing it up is because there was people say that it is watchable.
Apparently,
I would bet you if you went back to it,
there was a debate, and people were going, "Oh my god!" And I'm like, "Who's debating what show's better?" Because it was obviously Avatar: Last Airbender on it, and yeah, it really is. It's just changed my mind sign, and now you can still, like I said, obviously Phil did not enjoy Korra.
It's because it was very poorly written. However, it was very poorly performed. I mean, don't get me wrong. Visually, it was very nice. Visually, it was a very nice thing to watch. It's just everything else involved was boring at best.
You know, if there's one thing I'll say,
we've heard your opinion on it, Philip. At this point, so let it go.
But I will say, if you want to give one character,
so many times you hated it.
If you want to give one character thing that they did do dirty, there is one character they did do dirty in the show.
Toph and Aang and
I said one. Toph. Toph was the
Toph.
Toph was done the dirtiest in that show. I don't know why. She was done by far the worst blow. If you talk about a character that was given the Luke treatment, 100% Toph. Like her being like a hermit and like estranged from her kids, and her kids are terrible. Like that one
wasn't her daughter like the chief security now, and she was just a raging.
Yeah, a lot of characters did have development later on in the show. I do like the
I wish there
scientist
would have been
guy.
more Sokka.
Do the thing, Jolie. I did always enjoy that guy.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and I hated that 1920s thing. Oh, I hated that too. And last time we were here, we were seeing that Korra was running around in the middle of Republic City,
you
and
hated
she
everything.
didn't know what she was
Phil
doing
just hates
because she's
everything.
dumb.
Yeah, I agree, Christopher.
I enjoyed that. I
Phil
thought it
just
was a
hates
totally
everything.
different. It was cool it was a cool new take on it, and I enjoyed that. So it's like
It just shows me you guys don't have discerning taste all the time. That's all it shows me.
because we like hearing maybe a little a 20 style, because it's set in the kind of a 20 style industrial revolution sense, and because the guy speaks like that and has the hey there, and you don't like it, fine. It was enjoyable. I didn't care.
I had no problem
because he's
with
a
that.
newscaster in the 20s, and that's what they sounded like. Like
like I said,
mean,
I
come
think
on.
What?
the biggest
Were you
the
there?
biggest mistake again, and I think the only reason this is where I stand on this, and we'll wrap up on this one because obviously we're not going much farther than this. The thing I'll say on this one is the only reason there's any debate. So the only reason anybody cares about I think the media anyway cares about saying there's a debate is because of the last 45 seconds of the last episode of the last season of Korra, where the two lead female characters walk off in hands embraced. And then obviously the comic book story delves deeper into it, and I think that's the only reason, because they shipped those. There was a shipping war going on with the show during that time, and it was really boring
so bad.
and annoying. I think the show fell into the fan level where it said, "Oh, we're going to allow fans to dictate what happened," and so they allowed that to happen. I think that's also why the show struggled, because they tried to over appease the fans. So that's my opinion.
Well, didn't you realize, Joel? Didn't you realize you were just looking at it through your hetero lens, according to the writers, and that if you weren't looking at it with your hetero lens, you would have noticed. I was just saying that, according to the writer, you would have noticed it in season 1 if you weren't looking at the show through your hetero lens.
Oh, brother, yeah, I remember that. It was stupid. That's just like J.K. Rowling and her
because her
BS
fawning
on
over
thing.
her trying to choosing between which brother she liked totally meant that she was gonna like women at the end.
Yeah, that's stupid. That was
You know, it's like Bella from Bella from Twilight going Jacob, Edward. No, the chick.
Well,
see
7
that
of 9
coming?
had the same problem.
Yes.
Yeah,
Apparently,
well, exactly.
7 of 9 was like, ooh, Chakotay, Paris,
Again,
Chakotay, Harry Kim.
bad, and that is called bad writing and also pandering. So moving
so is
on
Korra.
to our next story.
Speaking of,
The Twitch Safety Council, which is a joke. We're not going to go too far down this road because it's not necessary to talk about it beyond. If you want to find more stuff about it,
is it a
Eventually-
council of one?
No, it's
And Westfox is worried that he's going to get plugged by me, so that's why.
it's
I
stupid.
mean, if you heard the last 45 minutes of you talking Korra, yeah, probably.
right.
Well, you brought me on here for a reason, to give you the facts.
Yes.
Facts you may not want to hear,
So
but they are
Twitch,
true.
which is owned by Amazon,
handle the
is
truth.
a bizarrely ran organization for such a major company. It has lax rules that it divvies out at its own leisure, essentially. So if you are the right person,
Literally.
if you are the
Whoever
right
makes it
person,
up.
but no, like literally, people do things on the channels, and if you are someone they like, you won't get punished for the same thing. And if there's someone you don't like, you can do something far more minor, and they'll punish you for it, like cut you off your channel, you know, kick you off, that kind of deplatform kind of stuff. So this individual was brought on as part of a group with other people, and this, stop bullying, and they said a lot of things that is very bizarre, such as, oh, people out there who don't like me should be worried. Things like, if you are a white gamer, you are obviously a member of a certain clan. If you if you talk on a microphone playing video games and you're a white man, you obviously are having an advantage against everyone else around you. And a large number of other probably questionable statements that...
Because white males are apparently superior at video games. News to me, I see Asian women out there who kick everyone's rear ends inside of Halo events and everything else. But, sure, okay, whatever.
So the thing is, it's amazing here, and I think this is a ploy, to be honest. Twitch just released a statement yesterday, talking about clarifying.
Just kidding,
it.
guys.
No, almost kind of, but they were saying, oh, they will. They're just an advisory. They have, but they're not actual employees. It's
They
a
don't have
very
power.
It's a very wordy.
It's a whole lot of
CYA.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
also
It's a wordy CYA is what it
Here's the
is.
thing that you notice on all these things. If you want to see where the true motives of these companies are, I honestly believe this is a giant ploy to see how the reaction is. I think it's like to soften up the frickin' rock out there and be like, look at this crazy person that's ridiculous onto this, so that the next person we put doesn't seem bad at all because they're not nearly, literally, possibly deserve some mental attention. And the problem is that you
I can
come
see
in here.
that, or I can see an opposite there, Westfox. The other way I can see it is they want people to get mad so they can say, see the bullying that happens, this is why we need this.
Oh, I agree with that too. I mean, that's what the news does that part. See, the news, even this Engadget article talks
yeah.
about
Look how angry they are at this.
how harassed they are. Have you not been on the internet? If you're doing stuff, and also when you kick the hornet's nest,
I can
you
say
can't
the
kick
sky's blue when I get harassed on the internet.
You can't, right? You can't kick the hornet's nest either, and then be like, the hornets are attacking me and being mean to me, and you're like, dude, you just said that
Darn
every
murder
gamer
hornets.
is a supremacist of a neutral color. And
Well, the real question is, who cares about Twitch? I mean,
they get a lot
let's
of
be
stuff.
honest.
I mean,
What is Twitch?
Well, here's the thing: a lot of people watch Twitch. A lot of people have made money on Twitch. It is a thing that exists. That the problem is, well, there's two problems. First of all, this notion that there needs to be all these councils to essentially censor speech on all these platforms, I think, is the first problem. But also, too, when you look at these companies, they continue to hire groups and they say we need diversity in these groups. But the one thing they don't have when it comes to diversity is diversity of ideas. All the people that they put on these councils, all these little boards, even if they're just name only, they have no power. They always
Are monoliths.
They're always left-wing wacko people, hyper integrated into changing the way the business world works. You never see anybody who comes from a more conservative standpoint, a more even moderate standpoint. You don't have any that comes from a, let's say, traditional standpoint. You don't see people that have ideas that express in logical ways. You see people going, like I said, saying things like voice chant is essentially a sexist thing, and you're like, no.
I just don't even understand how that's supposed to be. So you're what, is it because men are more likely to jump on groups and have their headsets on because women are afraid to jump on and have a chat because once
The
someone
way
hears,
it's framed.
oh hi guys, I'm playing a game, then all the guys are gonna go, oh it's a girl, I gotta.
Yes, that's
like,
how
is that
it's
the whole
framed.
point?
That's
Is
how
that
it's
pretty much
framed.
what their thing is?
Yeah,
like, once they
that's
know
how.
it's a girl, then all the men are hitting on her. So that's why they
That's
don't
the
jump
way I'm
on.
assuming it's framed.
the
Even
mic.
though there's things like voice modulators and all that kind of stuff. If you're really worried about it,
I think you're arguing the logic of a mentally ill person, and it's just an area where you're just going to
there's
find
a lot of
fruitless
people that push these kind of
conversation.
things. Well, and that's the problem too. Is that there is? I was thinking of this earlier today. I'm like, there is a point because
Was that
I
before
don't
or after you put on the scarf?
That was well before. There is a point where I don't like name calling of people. I don't like that's when it's used in political debates, and the argument is, Philip, you're stupid. That's why all your ideas are wrong. That's why you're just a stupid fathead. That's why Korra's better.
You just don't understand me, bruh. You just don't get
stupid.
it.
And
If you were on my level, you would know. Come on, bruh.
I feel like that,
Pony
but there
face
is
soldier boy.
right. So there's a point
Soldier.
where, like I said, I don't like name calling stuff.
Biden.
I don't like name calling, especially
That's why.
when it comes.
That's
to
why you're not very good
ideas.
at it. You fathead.
I'm not good at
That's like such a.
You're a doo-doo
You
fish.
lawyer.
You're a doo-doo face.
Catfish.
You nincompoop.
So,
But seriously,
but
do you know that your vest makes a lot of lines on the camera? Will it come through?
I don't know. We'll find
on
out.
the YouTube.
We'll find
it's
out.
gonna
I'm
it's gonna drive some
break
people
it.
nuts. That's so annoying.
So here's the
The
thing.
important questions being asked by Philip over here, and I'm going to talk like this now in the 20s just to annoy the hell out of him. Please, Philip, continue on with your lines about the vest.
So the question I kind of wonder though,
Sure,
when I talk about it, is when does the point hit when you're doing, like I said, a logical conversation? You go, okay, this person is obviously kind of mentally unhinged, and the argument has to somewhat take that into account, right? Because obviously, what we talked about, and it's well known, this individual likes to pretend that they're a deer and eat grass and in their yard and frolic and stuff like that. So you have to go like
Nebuchadnezzar?
when does that balance like when does the balance come in to an argument where you go, this person isn't fit to be on a board? Like in the old days, like in a real world, someone looks at us.
You have to collude with Russia.
Someone looks like us, and they're like, if you don't have a 5-year degree, a bachelor degree, and like 10 years of experience, you're not on a board, right? Like like how many jobs out there in like I said, especially the graphic design, film production space, things that I work in, they'll be like,
are consumed by Neanderthals.
No. I'm saying that the job application will be like, if you don't have a bachelor's degree or a master's degree and 5 to 10 years
they want to work for $13 an hour and know all the different software languages
and have a huge background. You're not allowed the job at, like I said, entry-level positions on stuff. And so it boggles my mind when sometimes these people are brought on these boards. Again, this is not the first example of people being brought into positions of, even if it's ceremonial power, some level of power.
But definitely a poster child.
Something to be brought in that they're talking with these companies. And you go, how is this possible? How are people that have no qualification, that any sane person would go, no, you need help? And they're brought into these organizations. And that's what boggles my mind. And that's the thing, is like the ideas thing, where it's like, okay, if you have that person, if she's on the board, I want to see the old school. I mean, I don't agree with them, but I want to see the like Texas, like,
Ted Nugent?
No.
I want to see Ted Nugent on the other side of that board.
The snake Christians, right? The ones that like have this, they tame the
they're like
Christian.
Because I really believe I can play with the snakes and will not die.
Crazy,
You're like,
I said I don't agree with that. I'm saying that's how far. Like that's to me. Like I still think that the girl with the deer,
I'd say they're closer in regards to
that. But I'm saying that if you're gonna put someone this far on the left spectrum, I want to see the person on the right, and then you could have some balance, because I want to see the snake charmer priest and this person have a debate and be stuck in a room together, and I want to see progress that is not made with that situation, because
she's gonna be on the lawn just trying to grab grass, and he's just gonna let the snakes like slide up to her. Snake. Well, to answer your question, though, as to what point would you kind of go, well, wait a minute, this person shouldn't be on the board? To me, I would say that if you were I'll put it this way, if you're either always a yes man or you're always a no man, then either you need more, actual diversity of thought, and not just diversity of skin color, biology, sexual orientation, sexual preference, whatever.
But we recognize that's not what they want. They want to hit a check mark that's physical and has nothing to do with ideology, because you have to be singular.
I'm saying, just at least for myself, like if I was making a board of something and I had one person only so far on my council board, and that person was either always a yes man or always a no man, then I would already kind of go, well,
what about a woman?
The whole. That was good. I'll give you that.
Whoa, man! Yeah, I need one of those. No, it's not a woman. I just need one of the person who goes, whoa, man, whoa. That's the line.
Well,
but like I said, someone's always gonna be for one side or the other, and there's never. I'll put it this way: there's never like a pause to actually think about the situation. Then it's like, well, either then I need multiple opinions if you're always gonna be this, or I need someone who is more open, listens to it.
Well, here's the difference too.
Understands to listen.
I'll expand on your thing, Christopher. I think the problem that the reason you're struggling there with that is because what makes a person valuable as a counselor, right? It's like we're saying a counselor, right? They're someone who gives counsel, is someone who can give you ideas and perspective in a very strong way. They can develop a story. They can give you examples. They can teach you through life experience elements to go, this is what you're going to the challenge that you have. And you might take this path, it might take this path, but given my experience, these are what's going to happen, right? So,
Right.
and that comes from life experience, personal experience, sometimes from other people's teachings, right? There's a lot of elements that bring that together.
Sympathy and empathy, actually as a part of your decision making.
So the problem is when you have people that have a goal, right? This isn't people like this. They have a specific goal. They're not there to go, because right, this is supposed to be the safety council, right?
They're not being arbiters at all.
Yeah,
They're being,
correct. They're not impartial. Yeah, and they have, like I said, very strong in writing words. Like the whole ADL that tie-in for this individual is very strong. And these are organizations that said the OK sign was racist. So, or a white calling card or something ridiculous. Yeah.
It's white power. It's
just, crazy stuff that just doesn't really exist in the real world. No one runs around and goes, oh, this is a thing. Yeah. And so that's the problem, I think, is that these organizations.
I guess I would disagree.
Go ahead. Okay.
Slightly. Look, let's say if I had a board of something, there does have to be an ideological basis with which I would have people on the board with me, right? I mean, you got to think of, if you're in a company and a board or whatever you're trying to do, you all have to have the same vision. Me as a Christian conservative, I'm not going to marry a Wiccan Satanist just to get different ideas in my life.
Well,
that kind of stuff is
also
retarded.
The difference too that you're saying there is you're saying how high the level, right? Because there's a difference between like this board, this safety advisory council has no power to it, versus in a boardroom or your wife has a level of power in your life.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm not surprised. There's a difference between thinking differently about solving a problem as opposed to having to have a diverse ideology. Because if I was going to run a company, I wouldn't have people in my company who believe in an entitlement mindset or who believe in 76 genders or stuff like that. I would have people who have a traditional conservative Christian mindset, so that when we go through the universe in my business, let's say whatever it is, whether it's making widget A or service B, is that the steps that I would continue through in my company would at least find my moral belief system and contracts. Different ideas don't necessarily have to mean different ideologies. We were raised the same, all three of us, but we still view the world different in ways that are still acceptably gray, but don't intrinsically devalue our moral baselines. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't have an issue that this person's on there. It's just it's an issue of, it doesn't surprise me that the person shares the same ideology, but they clearly can't function.
Yeah, I think that sums it well there.
Yeah, because like you said, there's a difference between any business. Like if you were any kind of business, obviously, like if you were a business all about security, and you have a council of security, like truly for that type of measure, and then you have a person on your board who's like, oh man, I think everyone's doors should always be unlocked, doors open, and it's like well, okay, I'd never want you. Like you clearly can't function within my,
Well, and it's better than what Google
to be there.
Yeah, and it's better than what Google and YouTube do. I mean, at least if Twitch is willing to hire that type of person and use them as a promotional tool, that says to me that I would never want to do any business with that company because they're insane. On the other hand, at least they're honest. They're obvious about it. Google and YouTube, on the other hand, they're like, well, no, we're business friendly and we don't censor. Get that person off of there right now. And then we're totally friendly. We want people to be here. We would never do that kind of stuff. At least Twitch is being honest and they're saying, hey, look, we're full on social justice warrior, psychotic nonsense, mentally ill supporters. Come join us, and let those people who want to participate in that go for it. Fine. So be it. It's the YouTubes and the Googles that scare me because they're the ones trying to play both sides for the now. And they're like, oh, everyone, please come play with us. We're totally unbalanced or balanced and equal. And we support all these things. Yeah. At least Twitch is honest.
Yeah, I mean, true. At least you're actually knowing where they're standing with this kind of person.
I think I think your point that was valid, and we'll move on to the last topic, is the element of they definitely show their hand with this kind of thing, because you do know the reason they have people like this in these boards is because they are people that they associate with at some level.
Right.
Yeah, they must.
They're clearly a prevailing ideology for themselves as a business. That if you're putting someone there,
I doubt they're putting the dude in a cage later at night. And they're like, all right, fem fan, go sit and nibble on your Cheerios. Of course they're hanging out with this person later. It'd be weird if they didn't.
Yeah. So it's crazy. We'll see where that goes. I think in the end it's just a stunt. It's a stunt. to do in-game goals that don't always make sense.
I mean,
That petting and that weeping, that was so
How
weird.
can we speak about this though, Joel and Philip? Because it's us three men on a massive group chat on YouTube.
Yep.
So clearly,
dare we.
we're white.
We can't talk about
How
this.
dare
And we're
we.
white. Yeah.
Speaking of
And we're white.
favorite shows, the Star Trek is talking about doing another spin-off original series, somewhat spin-off prequel thing that's awful, called
It's gonna be terrible.
Star Trek
I know it's gonna be terrible, but I hate when
Strange Worlds or Strange Lands or
Strange
something
New
like that.
Worlds. Yeah,
It's Strange New Worlds, so it's kind of continuing the.
I question how anybody wants this. I crack up because the article's like, Star Trek fans are so excited. This is going to be the most exciting thing they've ever been waiting for. They are ripping and roaring for this new show. It's the most exciting thing. There's like 5 Star Trek shows out right now. And I'm like,
Well, what makes it even
Who's
funnier
excited?
is because
like,
what makes it
I
even
know.
funnier about that is the fact that what I've seen so far from the show, they're saying it's going to be more optimistic than what Discovery and Picard has been, and they're going more back to an episodic.
they
So
keep
what
saying
makes
that
me
though.
laugh is
Just so
people
you,
go-
don't trust that
Oh,
though.
I know, but
Every
I
time
know.
No.
I know. But here's where my point is. I thought everyone said we are so happy that the new Star Trek series weren't the typical episodic, uplifting stories. It was time for something new. But yeah, now this article is like everyone's clamoring for a return to normal. So which one's the truth, a-holes?
It doesn't matter.
Who you shilling for here?
I know.
Way. Now, here's my well, I was gonna say my only second part is if this was in 2005 when Star Trek Enterprise came out with Scott Bakula and Archer,
Bakula?
and
Bakula.
this was the whatever.
Baluka.
Bakula.
Okay, Zack
Not a
Snyder.
whale.
I don't think you should be correcting anybody. Okay.
the Avatar on.
I'm leaving that on there. I'm not going to fix it. I was going to fix that text, but I'll just
You're
leave it on
right.
there now.
You're like not too funny. You're like I could not care less.
But I would put it this way: if this was back in, if this was back when Enterprise was coming out, and this was the premise of Enterprise instead of what they did with the Archer timeline and all that crap, I would have probably been like, "Hey, this is actually a decent choice. I don't mind this." Like I will admit, as a fan, yeah, hey. But I would say as a fan, because I know we've even talked about this with Dad. It's like I've never minded if they actually did go back and do Christopher Pike with the Enterprise. I've honestly actually always wanted there to be. If there was something, I wouldn't mind it. I'm not saying it. I'm just saying.
I'm not
it was
saying
one
you're
of those things
wrong,
where I
just that
said,
you're wrong.
You just don't have
Here's my-
taste. It's okay. No
Here's
worries.
my only.
You're just
no,
wrong.
because I actually like Christopher Pike. It's like I always liked the original But
But
cut for
why?
him and then what he is in Menagerie. He was just. I liked his character. I liked what they did for the pilot and then how he is in Menagerie. It was just an interesting, and I didn't mind that being that. But my problem is now, like I said, they've gone through so much other crap to come back to this is horrible. And then my other thing is, I'm also, it's like, you've had so many iterations now of a Spock that it's kind of becoming my problem now too.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that.
There's too many iterations of Spock now running around here.
Yeah.
Well, to jump on that, they've already lobotomized the character. I mean, let's
See, yeah,
it's,
I don't- I-
they're,
I-
they're
that's the thing,
existing
I
in the
didn't
same
see-
world as Discovery, and
And I didn't see
the
what the
character
Discovery
is.
did with them.
I mean, Spock was magically had a sister. He was taught by Black Michael. He was led around by showing how to be a real Vulcan by a human female. And it's like this character has been completely diminished into a pathetic carcass of a person. And it's like, why would anybody be interested in watching this? Because even if you were like, wow, this show actually is good, they actually did some better writing, blah, 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 blah. The character that you're left with is a man who's dead, who's going to be dead. Who cares? We know his life story. It's
Either one,
basically
right? We
irrelevant.
know either one, right? Yeah, I mean, in the end, we know he either ends up, which again, they could change it now because, they keep freaking changing it. But
Well, I guess, yeah, they
either
could just
ends
rewrite
up-
history.
He either ends up a vegetable.
crippled. Yeah,
Or
exactly.
he ends up dead in Starfleet.
He at least gets to go back to the planet at the end. Okay.
That's true. That's true.
But that's my point. It's
All
not.
right.
That's my point. It's uninteresting. And Spock has been completely you wouldn't say dehumanized, devulcanized. He's a pathetic slob, and it's going to end up turning into the whatever the female actress's name is or character, her show
It's
is what's going to turn into.
And that was my only fear when I saw this. I said, oh, because it's, they're bringing back number one Spock, and then I said, I'm assuming number one, the female first officer, is probably going to be the more
the burger commercial
version for
chick. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Here's what I'm hoping for, though.
Go ahead.
Can I say one thing I'm hoping
Yes,
for? At least
go
for
ahead.
the first one, I'm hoping that the first episode of this show, when Spock does speak, he goes back to his old TOS days. Full speed ahead, screaming like he's like.
That would be canon. They'd at least be following canon.
I mean, it would make me really happy if they, at least for that first episode, the first time he speaks, he's like, full impulse, full impulse.
So here's the thing. Okay, that's funny. But here's the thing.
He already sang on a turbo lift
There's no hope for this show. I'm sorry. We've seen what they've done. This is the same team. They can say all their
same crew,
same
that's my
writers,
thing. They can say they're changing it all
people.
around. It's not.
They hate I can't get away from the fact. I feel like they hate the franchise. They want to break it down into the smallest levels of particle and recreate their own little garbage. This will be some version of something else. They're gonna rip off the Orville or something. I don't know. They'll be like, oh, we want to do the Orville now. Or we want to do the Witcher. It'll be the Witcher ripoff, right? Because they ripped off Game of Thrones. I mean, there's
I've
so
always
much
wanted a
going
Star
too.
Trek Witcher
they do
mishmash.
They have the because they're doing. So here's the thing they're showing. They're like Discovery, Picard, short treks, which are terrible. Those are abominations. The section.
They are
They want to do
abominations.
a Section 31 series, and then the Lower Decks
gonna happen.
animated show. And I'm just like, they're
Terrible.
Like, so many new shows for Trekkies for TV, and you're like, these aren't for Trekkies. These shows are like, I believe there's a percentage that like them, but I really question what I like. Again, I'd love to see the numbers of who watches
Same
these
people
shows.
would like Korra.
But just to dig it in there.
I think it's
So,
just
okay,
funny
you
that
can't even compare it. You can't compare that. I'll watch Korra any day over freaking having to suffer through Picard again.
gosh.
I would watch neither. They're both equally as bad.
If you had to put one on a if you had to watch one, would you watch? Discovery and
Well,
Picard.
I might watch Picard because it's shorter.
No, but you have to
go
watch.
through
You have to watch
Korra.
all the new stuff. You have to watch Discovery and Picard at the same length. You have to watch them as much as there's a. Oh, Korra 100%.
No, I would die.
No,
I would
Korra's
I
so
would
bad,
watch
dude.
Korra. I would watch Korra over having to rewatch.
You've never even
Picard
seen
and
it.
Discovery. What, Korra?
You never watched Discovery.
I watched the first little bit of it. It was bad. I couldn't handle it.
Oh, I know it was terrible. I'm talking to Christopher. He never watched Discovery.
So
I don't want to watch it.
he knows
Why
what's
would I
how
wanna
bad.
watch it?
He knows how bad. He knows it's worse than Picard. It's worse than Picard. So that means that
Oh, it was worse than Picard. There's no doubt.
So-
that's
so
what's amazing.
If Picard is as
I know,
bad
like,
as
that's what's
Picard is,
astonishing.
and Discovery is worse than that, there's no way that Korra is not far superior to watch of the shows like that.
No, they're both equally trashy.
No, you can't say that.
Well, you know what? We can. I can't. I mean, if I had an hour, I could systematically go through why.
We don't have an hour, so
and
that's
explain to you piece by piece.
Goodness, we don't have an
just
hour.
don't got an hour.
Oh shucks, we just ran out of time.
We just ran out of time, folks. Thank you for joining us. But yeah, no, I mean, anyway, just the wrap it up though, we will say.
E:*R. That's all I'll say.
Okay. He
does a great breakdown.
Okay, but I will say the only thing I can say on the wrap up there is that I don't know why they think that. I mean, whatever. Again, it's like
They're grasping at straws. They're just hoping to make money back on the name of Star Trek. They've blown it so many times. They're just desperate. And they saw that people were like, hey, Discovery sucks, but we really like Anson Mount. So they're like, okay, we figured something out. Let's put Anson Mount in his own television show, and hopefully that'll garner enough attention, and maybe we can pull out a rabbit out of our hat.
No,
and they
I agree with that.
They refuse to understand that it will only last for like 3 episodes. And then people will be like, oh, it's just the same junk that was produced with different faces.
Well,
and they're not
and
going to be amused by it.
And what I think is actually really funny is for all these people to kind of say that, it's like, oh, all these
got
Trekkies
incognito.
all these Trekkies are so happy to get all this new material. I mean, and most of the times, I mean, for the 10-year-old
Well, a lot of them
Trek,
kind of
there was
are.
Usually, no,
Sadly.
but that's not my point. Shush. My point is for the tenure of Star Trek, there was usually only like one series running at a time. You had a little bit of it between the end, I think, of TNG, the beginning of Deep Space Nine, and then just that little bit of Voyager, because that kind of started. But it's like most of the time, there's only usually been one series running of Star Trek. and now they're trying to come up with 5 different ones, throwing it at the wall, saying so one of them should be liked. And you can tell that that's showing how much they're grasping at straws. That it's not one series. They're saying, this is where we're putting our money into. Here's TNG, or here's TOS. This is what's going on. It's like, because I think TNG was ending right as Deep Space Nine started up.
Pretty close. It was close enough. But the point
I
is,
think there was
two
like
at once. But
Okay, well, here's my question. I have a question for you too.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll answer it first. I don't believe in saturation. I think if things are good, people are happy to watch it, period. I don't care what it says. Do you guys actually believe there's such a thing as Star Trek's oversaturation or Star Wars oversaturation or Marvel oversaturation? I believe if it was good, people would watch it till the end of time and they wouldn't care.
I think there is a point, even with quality, that you can hit a saturation point. I don't think that... Where is Star Trek's saturation point? I don't know. But obviously the problem is when you have no good shows, it makes that saturation point lower. So I would say the higher I would say it's the saturation point is directly proportional to the quality of the show. So the higher the quality of the material, the more you can have before a saturation point hits, right?
And I don't think we've ever seen enough quality at the same time to really see an oversaturation
at the same time,
not for Star Trek, because like I said, there's usually one at a time going on.
Well, and here's the problem: it's that quantity over quantity, right? So they affect each other, right? So if you increase the quality and the number together going up, you can have a lot more. But the problem is, as that one increases the number of shows, the quality number, when you add that third dimension, right? Because there's quantity and quality. Or there's saturation and quantity, right?
Right.
But the moment you add in quality into it, with the number, you start having that other one that's going to start dipping on you.
We'll see you're introducing diminishing returns. That isn't a part of the question.
Yeah.
I'm just saying if it's quality, period, as a beginning part, I don't believe that oversaturation exists.
I think you'll hit a point eventually.
I mean,
we're talking a huge number. Marvel shows it, right? I think that Marvel has proven that they're...
Marvel's kind of close with how many TV
Yeah,
shows
that's
are
going quality, though. But and here's the thing. Look at Marvel.
Quality.
It's a quality issue.
Yeah.
Again, it starts to hit a point. Like, as I said, when you have so many, you do lose quality, right? Not every show is going to be perfect. So what the difference, too, is what makes saturation less of an issue is when you make enough shows that are quality, that are different enough, right? Because Next Generation... or let's say Voyager and Deep Space Nine were two very different shows.
Right.
They ran simultaneously, but they were very different shows. And like I said, I watched Deep Space Nine after as an adult, and I thought it actually aged a lot. I actually enjoyed it a lot more as I was an older person than I did when I was a kid. I did not like it when I was a kid. So, and I still think Voyager's great. I still enjoy Voyager. So those two shows, two shows to me that, like Voyager, Deep Space Nine, and Next Generation are 3 different Star Trek shows that came out in a similar space. And the problem is that what we're having now is very similar shows that have no purpose. Like, look at these shows now. What was Picard? Picard was a terrible adventure. Discovery's a retcon disaster. A Section 31 show is a it's a spy thriller Star Trek retcon disaster. They're just gonna retcon stuff.
It's like, well, it's Blacklist inside of Star Trek.
Yeah,
I mean, who cares?
And it doesn't
nothing
work.
new.
I've never been a huge Section 31 person. I there was like this weird. There's a certain percentage of the fan base who like really likes it, and I'm like, Section 31 is uninteresting to me in the Star Trek space because unless it had a purpose and a specific mission. The whole idea was it was a very small operational group. It wasn't a big group. And it was designed to do covert, sneaky stuff, right? That was kind of outside of the
Federation. For what?
Outside the Federation's purview. Yeah, and the problem is that since it's somewhat counter to what the Federation is and what I want to see, because the Federation stories generally are good because they're like, oh, we're going to negotiate this way through on a planet with the Romulans and make this work. Is more the Federation versus too many of the Deep Space Nine, like, what's the guy who's the barber on the no, he's the tailor on, isn't it? Yeah, Narek. Like, I don't want a series of
Garrick with the
Garrick.
G.
Yeah, Garrick, right. I don't want a series of Garrick. I don't want an entire series on Garrick, right? Like I feel like a Section 31 show is a series about Garrick.
That's what everyone's looking for.
Yes, no. And I don't mind him.
I mean,
he was
you know,
a good
And O'Brien, they want one on O'Brien, and they want a Worf series, and they want a Cisco series, even though he's like mentally, and they want a whatever. Oh no, he's dead. Actually, I forgot. Odo's
yeah.
dead.
Yeah.
Odo's dead. Yeah, he passed away. Yeah. Well, that's okay because with deepfake, we can do one about him too.
Yes.
With deepfake.
That's what I'm saying. So that's my point is that I feel like there's nothing of substance that I'm full. You know, there's no substance from these shows. Is my problem. You know.
Well, clearly.
And that's
Well,
in the end.
To
I
answer,
don't have excitement.
To answer
Go
Philip's
ahead.
question for myself, I would say that I agree with you. I think if the quality's there probably isn't a point of saturation. But again, I think it also isn't. I think it isn't only quality though. But I guess it kind of comes with it. But it does need to be something different. Like I don't want to watch 5 of the same Star Trek show just with a different captain. Like I wouldn't want to see like 5 of the same, exploring strange new worlds, but just different things on there because it would start getting boring. It's like, oh, I'm just gonna watch one then that I really enjoy the most.
Yeah,
but
that
if you're
when
having
it comes to
different,
you.
right? And it's like, but if there is different, things going on depending on it, then yeah, I wouldn't see the problem of having a few. Like I would love it if there was 3 Star Trek shows going on that was all a different little take on something that were great. Then I would be like, man, this is awesome. Like I get to be in the golden years of getting to watch whatever Star Trek instead of the one series coming at a time. I get 3 at the same time. They're all awesome. I'm not going to feel oversaturated. But again, it is come down to
they don't do anything interesting with them, right?
Quality.
Why don't we have anime Star Trek, right? Why don't they have Starfleet Academy Star Trek, right?
Well, they've tried and they're terrible.
I'm joking on that. I was joking.
They have tried and they're terrible.
But I'm saying that
I don't know. I think an anime Star Trek Academy would be awesome. Like one of the
I'm totally kidding.
Captain walks into the Kobayashi Maru thing, and all you see is like the big eyes that happen. Like their shields are up. Woo!
It'd be like the version of Eureka when they did it all 3 different anime styles in Eureka. Do you remember that?
I do.
It was like, well, they did they did one anime. They did one anime style, but it was like one was like cartoony, one was like claymation, and then because it was like, oh, we're changing the universe, and then one was super anime, and it was actually pretty funny. Well, he's like, I got my power stick. That was pretty amusing.
How funny would that be? Like it shoots to the outside of like the Enterprise, and it's showing like the little talking bubbles and faces, being like, oh.
Right. So I mean, the main point I was saying that is that there is place in Star Trek you could do different shows.
Brilliant idea.
That would be good, but unfortunately, like I said, they don't want good ideas. They just want to do what they think is safe.
They really
mixed
should
with
just do a
boringness.
simple thing on the Academy. If they really want to do something that was changing,
no, they should not go. No,
just think not with any characters. Just follow ground your cadets through the Academy.
No.
Do like the do the game. Do the Starfleet Academy.
Unlimited power.
I just say that. If you wanted something that could have random different things on there, because then you could be going through their hollow simulations, so then you could have different things going on. And then if you wanted some character development, then if you wanted the point, you're getting to see a crew get built up together, and that would at least be interesting.
I just think Star Trek's hit its. I think it just hit its end. I just don't think there's anything in that sphere of
that. I disagree with
socialist utopia that really could be interesting.
See, now here's what I disagree with you.
But that's
I think there's plenty of Star Trek.
Don't continue with the socialist utopia BS and pick another part that's part of Star Trek.
Okay, and here's the thing. Okay, here's the thing. The socialist utopia BS was not a big part of Star Trek.
Exactly.
Like that was like look at Voyager. They had to deal with resource allocation constantly in the show. Deep Space Nine had a ton of resource stuff on it. And Next Generation, they were essentially a warship, right? I mean, they're essentially a spaceship aircraft carrier. They're not like a merchant ship dealing with that. They never dealt with money because they're like, hey, we need something. They're no different than someone in the government saying, hey, I need a squadron of men here today because we have an issue. Okay, they're there. They don't go, your budget, not sure if it's there today. Like, I mean, there are people who do budgets inside the military, but when a situation demands it, no one's telling the president he can't fly somewhere when he wants to fly somewhere.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
like
and
I said, I don't like you said. The sense of the social utopia, like Philip was saying, is like you said. Yes, is it a part of Star Trek in the sense of kind of like an overall backside of kind of just like the human experience? We've elevated ourselves to be beyond certain things, yada yada yada.
Yeah,
but it's
and
like
I
it's
don't have-
never
again-
been the driving factor of
and
the Star
I,
Trek
and I still
stories.
I have to look it up because I still don't think Star Trek actually falls into socialist, because the difference is that you still earn
There's still
stuff.
rights.
There's still you still have property that you own inside of it. Like
Like,
there's some level like we know that people like Tom Paris, I think his dad owned a coffee shop or something, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So there's a level of ownership still exists in the space. Granted, the problem is that
and you know it's sad that Philip actually walked away for this one, because I know how much he loves Deep Space Nine. But it's like, you know, a lot of the Deep Space Nine episodes really hit hard on like personal rights. Like they actually do a lot about talking about the rights.
Good job
of
putting your
people
belt together
and what
there.
rights they should. Yeah, way to go, Philip. Love to see
Nice
that.
one.
But you know, like there's actually a lot of discussions in certain episodes about rights and personal rights. Like, so it's like there's
Right.
clearly for them is still a huge
Well, see,
part of that.
that's my point. How many times do you have to go over an episode about personal rights or property rights, you know, in every single thing? Some of the best Star Trek movies and episodes have nothing to do with the agendizing and the moralizing that they're trying to do. Wrath of Khan, it's not
You're coming in
moralizing.
at the end of the conversation, and you're trying to
First
make it not just fit you.
First Contact doesn't do any moralizing. They're just very adventure stories. But like, I think Star Trek has kind of hit its run. Do we really need another episode about racism, Cisco? Do we really need another episode about, you know, taking property rights and capitalism and consumerism with the whole insurrection? No, I mean, they've got it so many times. You only beat a horse to death so many times.
okay.
You missed what I said leading up to when you come back and just heard the last two sentences and went on your little thing.
Probably wasn't important.
You can slap him.
What I was saying
I had to use the restroom. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, that's fine, but then don't jump on and then have your back to your thing and not even listen to what we said. What I was saying,
I would have if I could have.
Joel and I were just saying that, you know, I was saying that just in general, it's like it's not a social like lism as much as they try to push it on there. My point was, I was saying to kind of the opposite side of saying there is a few episodes in Deep Space Nine that they are more talking about that there is individual responsibility, that there is individual rights that are for the person.
Oh, how convenient.
You can't.
I'm just saying-
Christopher can make a point without you saying, "Oh, it's convenient for," because it doesn't work for your story on it, Philip. The problem that you're trying to say is,
Thanks,
every
CNN.
show talks about something that was already been talked about before. That doesn't matter. Now, granted, do I think there needs to be five?
I wasn't picking on him. I was agreeing with him. I was just saying it's convenient
I'm saying
that the world of socialism is also talks about property rights.
Yes.
And
again,
like you said, not being entitled.
Star Trek is not freaking Russian socialism either, Philip. Like, that's what I was saying.
I agree.
Too. That has nothing to do with and the point. But moving on from that specific thing is the question you're asking, and the point of it was, and where you went down the rabbit hole, Philip, is, oh, we don't need to keep watching the same thing over again. And the reality is, well, I agree with you, doesn't need the whole thing. That's why I'm tired of them going back and going, another Pike show. Oh, another prequel show.
I agree.
There's too many. We all agree there's too many prequel shows when it comes to Star Trek. We don't need it any more prequels. The only good thing that Picard kind of did, which it failed at miserably, was actually allowing this timeline in Star Trek to unfreeze for the last 30 years. But the problem is that it didn't allow the story to move forward. Now we're stuck in this other timeline freeze, and we're stuck here forever. And then until the shows come back and allow us to go forward to the 24th century or the 25th century is what they should be going to. And then you can deal with new things and new ideas that are made with modern stuff. Like maybe...
Like what?
You could deal with stuff like if you wanted some subtle
like
elements of shows.
Like censorship, technological privacy.
Yes.
What?
That kind of stuff. Exactly that kind of stuff. Modern stuff like that would be, again, could be interesting as things to put into Star Trek with other cultures.
That's 2 episodes. Where's the other 12? Would be my question. What other things could they touch on?
Not every episode has to be on a topic. And not every episode of Star Trek.
Well, I
every
agree.
episode's going to be a moral tale. Like, let me.
I agree, but most of them are.
There's
my
plenty
point.
of good.
There are
in the world. There are
good ones that are
stories
just
out
adventures.
there. There are
It's true.
hundreds of good stories out there in the world, And if they're actually put some good writers on these shows, they have a lot of things to work with to put stories in there. And Star Trek, the original material to pull from, has a lot of topics, or it has a lot of rich, fertile soil to grow a crop. Now, your choice as a writers and producers to grow the crop and what you put to seed is important to it. And the problem is right now they're putting shallow
They're all one mindset.
Terrible seed instead of allowing them to grow maybe some corn and maybe some potatoes and maybe some fruit trees and some other stuff into our little crop of Star Trek world. But all we're getting is...
You're telling me weeds don't count?
Weeds.
Weird.
They're making dandelion tea and getting high off of it. That's
Seriously.
the only thing they're doing is on it. So, I mean, the Star Trek has a rich world that it can build on. The problem is the people running the stuff aren't doing that job, and they don't want to. I don't believe they want to do the job because they've said they want to piss off fans. They don't like certain types of fans, et cetera, et cetera. It's boring. So that's all I'm gonna say on that. Any last little short thoughts?
You can sneak by there, darling.
I love how he says it. I love how he says it into the mic. You can sneak by, like as if we needed to hear it and the audience.
Well,
I didn't say in the mic.
Now we're gonna.
You literally looked at the mic to go. You can go on through, sweetheart.
Well, you know what else can go on through?
You can go on through, sweetheart. We know one's gonna be seeing your backside.
Go on and push the subscribe and like button.
Well,
I hope you enjoyed.
I would say for my final thoughts.
Oh, he's decided to join us.
You already
on his
had
final
enough
thought.
final thoughts.
Yes, my final
5
thoughts.
seconds.
Westfox can't spell. Physical media is very important. All your favorites. Make sure you get the extended Blu-ray edition of Lord of the Rings or the 4K. Batwoman should be canceled. Korra sucks. Avatar's way better. Twitch Safety Council. Just don't be on the platform. And for Captain Pike, it's not going to go anywhere. Maybe one season. That's right.
Well, there we go. Our quick summary, which it's all pretty good. So anyway, thank you everyone for joining us today on a very long breakdown. We've been gone for a little bit, so obviously I think that's why everyone has extra large opinions tonight. And I think that as we start getting more stuff out here,
large opinions.
Well, 1/3 of extra large opinions. It's always interesting watching the audio files and seeing like. Christopher's has little.
I'm pretty sure it's gonna be like 95 Philip.
It has giant chunks in there. I'm like, oh my god, I gotta go through and edit this down a bit because Phil just never stopped talking in the background. Just kidding. Or am I? But anyway, yeah, we're gonna be talking more stuff back.
I'm not.
Shepard and myself will be talking about Assassination Classroom tomorrow. We're gonna do kind of a conversation, not so much a review. Well, a little bit of review. I finally finished the show, season 1 and 2. So we're gonna discuss that.
When are we going to do Trigun? You've promised me that for like 4 months,
we'll do that
and
here
you still haven't done it.
Has Christopher finished Trigun?
Yeah, I watched it a long time ago.
I don't want his opinion.
Oh, he gets his opinion because if you've seen it, you get to join us. So, okay, well, we'll also do Trigun.
I hate it, Philip. I just hate it. It's horrible. It's horribly written. Everything's wrong about it. There's nothing to like about it because he's just a horrible person who doesn't do
Joe
anything.
Well, actually, in fairness, it's partially true because Joel kind of set me up here, and I didn't feel it was as epic as Joel set me up for.
No, but it's horrible.
So it's kind of sad.
It's just as ridiculous. He's a blonde-haired jerk who's just running around doing nothing. He's like a Mary Joe. He's just always doing this. He never kills anybody. It's just a horrible show. Always a horrible show. I don't know why we're talking about it.
Actually, he does kill someone.
Thank you.
The only thing that would make it worse is if there was someone talking in a 20s voice doing like, hello, thank you, and subscribe to Westfox.